So I want to come to you today and talk to you about term insurance. I want to teach you on what term insurance is on today. Let me get my computer adjusted. I know child was fighting with his hair today, y'all, but look, we're gonna run on and see what the end's gonna be, right? So term insurance, I'm looking at my notes. So term life insurance is a policy that does not build cash value, right? It goes for a certain term, whether that's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, or 30 years. It does not build cash value. You normally would hear about term policies being like 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, right? You hear about all these $500,000 policies. And so term life insurance is a policy, again, that's for a specified period of time. It's temporary, right? And so that period typically can range anywhere from 1 to 30 years, just like we just talked about. And then unlike a whole life policy or a universal life policy, which we just talked about, term life does not increase in value. It does not build cash value. And then you may say, well, then what's it for? Like, am I just paying for no reason at all? No. Term life has its place in your financial plan. It has its place in your life, right? The benefit of a term policy is most of the time it's fairly inexpensive. So especially when you're younger. So when you're older, disregard, caveat, warning, right? When you're younger, term life insurance is super inexpensive, like $26, $40, $30, sometimes $18, right? But as you get older, term insurance becomes harder to qualify for if you have a bunch of health conditions, or depending on your medications, you can still get it, but the more challenges you have health-wise, the older you get, the less likely you are to qualify, right? So the benefit of a term policy, again, is it's fairly inexpensive. Also, with some term policies, depending on what kind you get, the premium may not be level, right? So there's level term, there's graded term, there's renewable term. You got to know what you're getting, right? And sometimes people don't know what type of policy they actually have. So therefore, they'll say, oh no, when we call them, they're like, oh, I'm good. I have a term insurance policy. And then you ask them, tell me the details of that policy. Maybe we could do a comparison. Let me look over your policy for you. And then they find out they have an accidental only policy. Meaning the only way it's going to pay out to their beneficiary is if that person dies in an accident. Or they find out it's renewable term. So every 5 years, the policy is going up. And they're like, what the crap? Why is it going up, right? Because it renews every 5 years, which means your premium changes. It's not level, right? And then there's level term, which your premium stays the same the whole time you have the policy. You're good to go, right? Most people will purchase a term policy because they want it to cover something specific, like their children's education. They want it to pay off their mortgage in the event of a death of the breadwinner. They want to replace their income if something happens to the breadwinner. They want it to cover funeral costs, or maybe they want it to protect some other assets or properties and things that they have. Then they get that larger policy. So if God forbid something were to happen to one of them, like their business, right? Let's say that they're the key person in a business, and if they die, then that business would not be able to operate. Maybe they get a policy on the business owner, so in the event of that person's death, the business can carry on, or at least have time to restructure itself to keep it going, right? And then when term policies come to an end, normally they're going to come to an end when you're older, right? So let's say like Marvin and I had a policy we got when we were 26 years old. So now that policy ends this year, that term policy. Well, we knew that several years ago, so we ended up getting additional policies, right? But I wish that the person that sold us that policy would have educated us on a return of premium term policy, right? Or a whole life, or something that would have grown with us that wouldn't just go away. But the blessing of having had that policy is when we had little kids, right? Shout out to Caleb and Miriam. When we had little kids, now we didn't have to worry about if God forbid one of us died or passed away, what were we going to do, right? So now we put other insurances in place. That's what you need to be thinking about right now. Do I have anything in place that would make sure that my family's life is not offset by your death, right? Will they still be able to have the same standard of living? Will they still be able to have the same quality of living? Will they be able to pay for the cars? Will they be able to stay in the house? Will they be able to keep the mortgage payments going, at least if they can't keep the house or refinance it, right? Would they be able to keep the mortgage payments going for a certain amount of time to give them time to rent it out, to give them time to refinance it, to give them time to sell it. Like, it buys them, insurance buys choices. Insurance buys options. Insurance pays for college. Insurance can buy a car. Insurance can pay for a wedding, right? It can do all these things. We just have to know, as your professional, as your personal insurance broker, your personal insurance bestie, right? What are your goals? What do you want? What do you want it to do for your family? What do you want it to do for you? And then let us cultivate and put together a personal plan for you and your family, so that we can make sure that happens either when you're not here, or there are term policies that have living benefits. So if you become critically, chronic, or terminally ill, you could tap into the policy. They have term policies where you can get a return of premium. You can get all your money back at the end of that term. Come on, it's so much creative stuff out here now. But let's keep going. So the cost of insurance, if you're 50, is way different if you're 20. We talk to people all the time and they'll be like, oh no, I was looking to pay $40. Ma'am, you are 75 years old. There's no $40 policy except the accidental only for a 70-year-old. But let's talk about this whole life policy that's really great, that builds cash value, that goes your whole life to age 90 or age 100 or age 120, depending on who you get it with. Let's talk about that. But we really need people to educate us on what's out there, what's available, what can hit our goals, what can fit our budgets, right? And we have to be realistic. But so that's what we do, is we help people become realistic about what is available to them, and why what they can get right now is equally as beneficial and great as what they could have gotten when they were younger, okay? And then you need more extended life insurance coverage. Term, again, is going to end at a certain amount of time. So level term is a level premium policy that keeps the same premium and death benefit for the duration of the term product. Increasing term is a policy where the death benefit increases over time. While the death benefit increases, your premiums will increase as well, okay? And then we have decreasing term. With a decreasing term life insurance, the premiums remain the same over the length of the policy, but the death benefit decreases slowly over time. Annual renewable term life insurance is an annual renewable product where the premium increases year after year, and it increases each year you renew it, okay? And then what this policy does is you're guaranteed to keep coverage and you don't need to reapply, but what's gonna happen is the price will keep changing, right? So also then there's return of premium term life insurance, and that's where at the end of that term, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, or 30 years, you get back all the money, the premiums that you put into the policy, with the exception of an administration fee. Sometimes they may charge you an admin fee of like $495, $500, right? Depending on what that is. So you get back everything less that. Some companies give you back 70%. Some companies give you back 90%. It just depends, but that's a really great product. Now, the benefits of a term policy is it's a guaranteed death benefit that the beneficiary will receive in the event of your death, right? But you can outlive a term policy. So it may not be something best for you when you're older, because people are living longer. People are living past 75. People are living past 65. And even though we may see people, passing away that seem young, on average, people are living longer, right? So you don't want to outlive your policy, okay? So if you choose a policy, for example, to cover a 30-year mortgage, then you would select a 30-year term, right? That makes sense. But what ends up happening now, because the reason why you would do that is because in the foreseeable future, you're assuming you're only going to have that mortgage 30 years. So if you keep that term policy all 30 years, then now your mortgage is paid off. Now you don't need that big policy anymore, because the whole benefit around it for you would have been to pay the house off in the event of your death. So now you want to talk about something more permanent, a whole life, or an index universal life if your health is good enough. An annuity, like you want to talk about all these different key builders that you can put into place. And it doesn't cost what you think it costs. You can start making money from your money using insurance as a vehicle to do it, without it being super expensive, okay? But the longer you wait, the more expensive it's gonna get, and the less time it will have to benefit you and to grow, okay? So let's talk about whether or not you need accidental death and dismemberment to go with that term insurance policy. So a lot of times whenever we sell term products, we also sell accidental death insurance with it. And most of the time, let's just say you have a $100,000 term policy, we would add an additional $100,000 of accidental death and dismemberment. Why? Because because you don't know how somebody's gonna die, right? And the average person right now that dies through an accident is normally 18 to 45, right? Especially someone that drives trucks, rides motorcycles, jumps out of airplanes, right? That does all these different things. If you know that you do some type of daredevil type stuff, let's call it dare angels, right? Some type of dare angel type items, you want to have an accidental death and dismemberment policy attached to, as a rider, to your term insurance policy. So typically, the cost of accidental death and dismemberment insurance is super inexpensive to add it along with your term policy, right? And what it's going to do is, for example, if you had an accidental death and dismemberment policy and you lost a hand, I know it sounds kind of morbid, or you lost a foot, then that person is gonna receive money right then while they're alive. They don't have to die in an accident. Accidental death and dismemberment will pay in an accidental death, or it will pay if that person becomes dismembered. And normally the insurance company will pay for this amount for a hand, this amount for a foot, this amount for both hands, this amount for a leg or arm. I know it sounds just a little disheartening, right? But these are the things you have to think about, right? And so these are the things that are available in addition to or along with a term policy. So I'm going to stop right there. I feel like that's enough information. But what type of policy do you have? And isn't just a work policy? And there's nothing wrong with having a work policy. But what happens when your job ends? What happens when you retire? You're no longer benefiting from that group insurance plan that's super inexpensive. So you need to have your own policy. So therefore, if and when you decide to retire or leave that job, you still have access to great insurance at a great price, even though you won't have that group rate anymore. And then our next video coming up, are you a retired veteran? We want to talk to you about VGLI, SGLI, and what the government actually covers and pays for when a veteran or a service member passes away. We hear all the time, oh, the government's going to pay for that. Oh, the VA is going to pay for that. Oh, the military's got me covered. But you will be shocked, surprised, and in awe of what the government really does not cover when a veteran passes away. And we don't want you to be caught off guard. So that's what we're going to educate and teach on next. We are so honored and excited to serve our service members, to educate our service members. Thank you for your service. Because of you, we have freedom. Okay, because of you, and I live in the land of the free and the home of the brave, the 82nd Airborne. So shout out to everybody at Fort Liberty, Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty, whatever we're calling it today. Thank you for your service. God bless you guys, and Semper Fi to my Marines, Navy, all of y'all. Thank you so much for your service. Okay, but I'm going to be educating and training you all on that next. God bless you. Oh, who am I? I'm Garlinda Price. I'm the owner of Fusion Insurance Group, and we're so excited to serve you. We represent so many carriers. We're actually brokers. We get to shop around in the marketplace to find you the best coverage for you and your family, and you can reach us. I have agents across the country as well waiting to serve you. 910-494-7798. The products that we specialize in are life insurance, term life, whole life, index universal life, annuities, health insurance products to include dental, vision, short-term disability, hospital indemnity plans. What does that even mean? That means like if you want to go have a mammogram, you want to have your annual exam, you want to be able to go see a doctor for EKG, right? We have health plans where you can go and your visits are covered with your co-pays and things like that. So give us a call. We want to be your one-stop shop. 910-494-7798. God bless you guys. Happy Friday. I'll talk to you soon.